It is the evening of July 1, 1863. Tomorrow's weather, although we don't have the predicted qualities in the 1860s as we do now, it's going to be in the mid to upper 80s tomorrow morning and throughout the day, very high humidity. Robert E. Lee has had a great day at Gettysburg. Although he had implored his commanders not to bring on a general engagement in Gettysburg, it had actually played out that way. Union soldiers had fallen back through the town of Gettysburg. They had taken a position on Culps Hill and then on Cemetery Hill, as is reflected here on our map. Confederates under the command of Richard Ewell, Lee's 2nd Corps, had done great work in causing the Union soldiers to retreat. Lee was looking for even greater things on July 2nd. He was looking to defeat the Union Army here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Part of his strategy was to crush the Union Army and potentially either move on Philadelphia, move on Washington, D.C., Baltimore. But he needed additional follow-up successes. His original idea was to use the Confederate 2nd Corps to attack the Union Army on Culps Hill and on Cemetery Hill. Prior to implementing that plan, however, he brought together the commander of the 2nd Corps, Richard Ewell, along with his division commanders. Jubal Early was in attendance. Robert Rhodes was in attendance. Robert E. Lee sought their opinions on just what kind of condition the Confederate Army in the 2nd Corps was in at this time. Jubal Early, Robert Rhodes, and their commander Richard Ewell expressed to Lee, gave him information that they were not going to be able to sustain a heavy engagement on day 2. This would be problematic for Lee. Many elements of his army were still arriving in the area of Gettysburg. His entire plan to this point was to push forward, to attack those heights. But Early, Rhodes, and especially Ewell were emphatic. Those troops who had marched from Carlisle, Pennsylvania the day before to engage portions of the Union Army were in no condition, according to them, to sustain an attack, and not only sustain it, but be able to follow it up, elements critical to Lee's plan. Rather than dismiss their ideas, Robert E. Lee decided to take a separate action. He chose to allow Ewell's troops to remain in place, rest, demonstrate so that the Union Army would still know that they're in position. But he decided to attack an entirely different part of the battlefield. As a matter of fact, probably as far distant as it could be from this part of the field. On our map, we are actually in this position here. The opposite end of the battlefield, another Confederate Corps, under James Longstreet, the 1st Corps of the Army of Northern Virginia, were given orders to attack up the Emmitsburg Road, still focusing on this point, but to make that attack. In this particular case, Robert E. Lee, although it drastically changed his plan of action, his greater goal was success. And by listening to his subordinates, he actually made a total change to his plan here at Gettysburg for July 2nd, 1863.